Hi, this is Joe Peters with MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the World Network and the Single TV. And I am not seeing it.
Catch you off guard.
Yes, there we go. Single TV Network and in the TV channel 250 and 251. Please also remember to download the Single TV app in the respective iOS and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure that you leave us a comment. The app is completely free. Single TV is also available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all the smart TVs since 2016. If you are not following me yet in Instagram, I will invite you to go to Instagram and follow me, Joe Unicorn Coach. I handle all my social media. So if you have a topic that you would like us to discuss, that you need extra help from experts, please send me a DM and we will find somebody to talk about that topic if I don't have the answer for you. I am super excited to be here today with Rebecca. Rebecca is a super mom, like the MomFit super moms, and we are going to be talking a little bit about her own journey in motherhood with her family. Rebecca is a wonderful wife, mom of two, entrepreneur, business owner, and also is been managing a different way to parenting. Rebecca, thank you so much for being here. Why you don't share a little bit about who you are and the journey that you have with your beautiful kids and with your son.
Hi, thank you for having me, and so I can showcase a little bit of what autism moms face on a daily basis. Sometimes we can be misunderstood in general, so it's a hard journey, not an impossible one, a hard one, and you grow, you learn while you're in the process. So yeah, who I am, a, I live in Canada to start. I'm in Toronto. I come from Venezuela. Uh, Learning to be an immigrant wasn't easy, but here we are. I have two children. One, my oldest, is in the spectrum. So, and of course, all challenges come with any kid, definitely. And I know that because my daughter is not in the spectrum, and sometimes she gives me more hard time than he does. um so basically, about the journey, I was trying to get pregnant for 10 years, and I tried. We tried. We did in vitros that didn't work out, and one day, surprise, surprise, you're pregnant. Wow, like it was the best thing ever. Like everybody was so happy, and we were focused on him, and like it was the best present God could give us. Um, Even in on his name is Nathan or Nathan, which is in Hebrew means God given or fallen from heaven. So that was his. He came to the world like fallen from heaven, to be honest. um, he started growing a cute little boy, curly hair, very hyperactive, very busy. He started bringing from words, like regularly. Then, surprise, surprise, mommy is pregnant again. So the one that couldn't have any babies, up sudden decided to open the factory. So my daughter and my son are basically 13 months apart.
Wow.
So you can picture how hectic those first years were. Um, Not only because of the diagnosis, because that we didn't know at the beginning, it's because you had two little kids in the house. So basically, he started having a regular development developmental stages till he was reach around probably 3, where people, everybody was expecting him to talk. And what was really happening is he was losing speech. So whatever words he was saying when he was 18, 20 months, when he turned 3, they start disappearing. So they start growing. And that was the first thing that, um, I don't know if you're feeling, I have a feedback. Do you feel that?
I don't. I'm hearing like a pin, but I'm not having some feedback.
So oh yeah, that thing is my my messenger thing that also blinks the whole day. So that was the first flag, the language. So I started doing my research and found out, well, there's many reasons why a child loses language or don't develop as fast as others. So my the first advice of the doctor was, oh, don't worry, boys speak late. But as a mother, and you know, that's not, something is not right. So I kept doing my research. In the meanwhile, one of the biggest flags was that he started eating my cushions. And yes, my cushions. He was open the zipper, pull the foam out of the sofa cushions, and just eat them. And it came a time that was really, really concerning because his diaper was full of foam, basically. So that generated, like I already was in contact with the speech pathologist here, and they advised me to do developmental delay. Sorry, the mental the mental evaluation to him, because I'm pretty sure they also realized there were more things besides the talk, the speech. So when I got to contacted with the agencies, because that's the way it works here in Ontario, in Toronto, I got in touch with the agency and I mentioned about the cushions. So that generated a huge flag, a huge, huge flag. So everything started like to reactivate it. Like all the agencies start calling me, you have to do this. Everything got a speed. I honestly, at this point, I'm talking about probably 10 years ago. Most of things I can remember, but some are actually blurry in my face. To be honest, I try to repeat myself what happened so I don't forget about the process, because that's the way I've been trying to also advise and help younger parents with the same situation. To this is something you have to tackle day one. The minute you know or you feel or you suspect, you have to tackle it. So that's, I will say, my first advice to anybody that feels that my something is not looking right. um, if a mom sees that something is doesn't look right, it's probably because it doesn't. So my best advice is start by yourself, evaluating. Don't listen to the noise around you, because that can create a lot of stress, a lot of stress. So don't listen to your surroundings, but keep a close eye on your kid, and don't blind yourself because you have a fear of a diagnosis. Sometimes having a diagnosis is a good thing. Not necessarily, of course it's hard, of course you go to a grieving process, because you expect your baby to be the best, the most beautiful, the perfect, the one that will graduate as a, a science engineer or a doctor, or like everything will be perfect in their lives. But the reality is that usually it's not. Most people have something that can be considered not perfect. Let's put it in a way. Some people have delay speech. Some people have concentrations problems. Some people are rebels. Like there's so many things, um, so many things that can, uh, you a kid can be born with or get. through their lifetime. So yeah, my first recommendation is keep a big eye um, on those flags or those things that this doesn't seem right.
And I think that that is so important because, especially for first time moms, right? Because first time moms need to trust their gut. And then, first, like your doctor, first time moms get faced with, oh, you are just a first time mom, it's okay. And I love how you are sharing with other moms and like trust that if you as a mom feel that there is not something right, follow that instinct. Because the one thing that I also realize with everything is, as early the diagnosis and the detection is, as more support they can have to actually leverage their skills and have the most beautiful, amazing life that they can have, versus them feeling and building frustration with the family for a delayed diagnosis. So, Rebecca, let's gonna talk about that moment when the diagnosis came and how that changed the dynamics in your family, because you were not only having that to deal with that, but by that point you also have another toddler in the house that was your baby girl. So how was that transition, and what were some of the things that changed in your life, in your family, now that you knew about the diagnosis, not only on the way that you interact as a family, but also on the things that you had to adjust and change that you were not thinking about before?
Well, first of all, and I also say to all these young parents who are getting the diagnosis, there is a grieving process. There's nothing wrong about it. Of course you cry, of course you say, why me? What did I do? What happened? If I did this, maybe this won't happen. Is it real? That is the diagnosis real? Maybe they're exaggerating. There's so many things and guilts that come to your brain in that, let's say, couple of months to start with, that are extremely overwhelming, stressed. um, and that you mentioned about my daughter, I till today I regret, but I have no control on it, that I have a period in my life, probably it's the when they were very little, that I don't even recall my daughter being there. Like, she was a little cute little girl, and I don't see her in the picture, and it's because I was so focused on 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 getting things done. Because first of all, because everything is a wait list in the process. Like, um therapies for the therapies that are recommended for autism are very expensive. So you have to get into any wait list you can find in order to help your child. And early intervention, that's uh, the second advice that I would recommend any parent who has a recent diagnosis. Early intervention is the clue of having a success in the future. So the earlier you can put a child into whatever you can manage to put him, even if it's not the precise therapy that you need, in the meanwhile, do it. Anything you can expose the kid to community, to other kids, to other kids in the spectrum, like, everything, it's good. So, make them socialize. I know there's a saying that say, if you know one autism person, you know one autism person, because not all are equal. Thank God, we didn't have the situation, for example, that stimulus bothers him or anything, so we could take him in the community. We went to festivals, to the beach, to everything, without any problem. But he he used to be uh escape. He used to escape from, like, he can wander. He can decide that he wants to go and have a drink, and he goes and look for the drink. So basically, the recommendations is early intervention. And before you manage to have the early intervention, understand your process of grieving, but don't get stuck on it. Like, Go to your process. You need that. You need to do the crying, you need to do the fighting, you need to go, go push your pillow, you need to go in the car on your own and scream if needed. All that is needed. But you cannot get stuck on guilt that you don't even know if you have. And if you have, you don't know how you can solve it. So you need to understand where you are and what you can do to make it better. Don't I always say to people, and I've been very frustrated sometimes because I've been in different groups with moms and whatever, and it frustrates me so much when a parent um, just leaves a group, or oh, you know what, I'm not putting my kid there just because, oh, it's I don't want to ask, or I don't want the people to know, I don't want my community to find out. This is very, they're ashamed of the situation, and so they start to getting into their home and never leave the house because I can't go out with my kid. It is challenging. It is very challenging. It could even be dangerous, but you have to do it. You cannot put the kid, in a drawer and lock it, and you're not doing anything for them. Parents will not be their whole life here. Even if we're young, even whatever, you won't be there around forever. You need to teach them to be as independent as possible, as skilled as possible, so that they're able to sustain themselves, or at least don't be a burden for the sister, for example, in the future. So to be honest, it has worked for me. I feel at this moment, even though his speech is still limited, even though we still have some challenges, um, I feel so proud of myself, of our family, of my daughter, of the whole support system that we have, because that includes grandparents, includes the school, the therapist, every people who has put their piece, the puzzle piece, from since he was 3, from diagnosis to now that he's 13 and he goes to camp and school and he helps and he builds and he cooks, and he, like, he has learned so many things, and that's because everybody contributed to his growth.
I think that one of the beautiful things that you are saying there, and I see that so many times in sometimes some mom groups, and is that when a mom faces a diagnosis, there is still a pushback from other moms saying like, "Oh, but everything is a blessing, but that he or she are just perfect like they are." And I love how you are actually being very raw and telling the moms you need to have that period of grief
Yeah.
because it's something that is changing. Your entire life is changing, your kid life is changing, the life that you wanted for your kid may not be as good. So I love how you are giving that permission and normalizing, because that is something that I always get frustrated when I see people saying like, it's almost like making the mom feel guilty for having that grief process of like, you need to be grateful that she's healthy or that he's healthy. Yes, and it's still this is going to change our lives. We are, the reality is we are in a world that is can be very difficult and mean. So I love how you are allowing that to happen. The other one that I love that you are saying is the part of being in the spectrum is a spectrum. It is every single one of them can show up in a different way
Yeah.
how they are developing, and understanding that not only for the moms that are going through it, but also for that support system, for the friends, for the sisters, for the aunts, for all the other family and friends around that family that is learning how to handle this new way to living. Because when I was listening to you, it can be scary, right?
Yeah.
Like that your kid that you know that your kid just start walking and disappear, it can be very stressful for a mom. Like, I will just put like a
and
cuff on
and
my
when you
kid.
have a runaway and a 2-year-old like at the same time, trust me, it's hard. And also, there's another thing that needs to be mentioned that people try not like parents with kids with autism usually choose to um, close themselves to the world instead of showing the world what a reality is. It's not that it's your own kid in the whole country that might have be in the spectrum. There's many people who even don't even know they're in the spectrum that live in our society. So one thing I am a great advocate of is teaching, because everything happens because there's a lot of ignorance. You need to teach the community, you need to teach the world that they face some challenges. That doesn't mean that they should be taken out of the society or the community. Is you need to either or both. You need to include them in the society, understand their needs, and make it a better world. Like it's um if when he was a little kid a runaway, I decided to stay home for his own safety and blah blah blah, and he needs to be like he needs to be fed, and like he won't be the kid that he is today, that we go to festivals, to large events. He goes with me to concerts, um to restaurants, to everything. Yes, of course, at the beginning it was crazy, but now he's a big guy. He sits in a restaurant, he orders his food, he eats, he enjoys, he's happy to do that. Most of parents, there's a trend that they try to overprotect them, and I understand. Don't take me wrong, I'm not saying that's bad. Of course you want to protect your little baby, but you're not helping. You need to help them develop more. You need to bite your tongue. You're scared, it doesn't matter. Like I always push. He started going to camp. That's another part of my story. That's why I am a great advocate of pushing them to the limits. I started sending him to the camp. Sorry. I started to send him to the camp since he was 3 years old. There was no camp around my area for 3-year-olds. I found a camp. I drove for half an hour and I took him to camp. Not because I needed the time, not because it was bothering my head, so I needed to send them to camp. No, I sent him to camp because he camp has built his personality, his confidence. He has built his strength. He now, like, he's been going to day camp since he's 3, and he started going to a different camp when he's around 5 or 6, which is an amazing place. And I can tell you they're a big part of the success we have today. This camp also became his school, like so his everyday school. And if it wasn't for that interaction with camp, school, support, volunteers, everybody that goes around, activities, challenges, because again, I believe truly in pushing the limits, because they can do much, much, much more than we can think. First of all, second of all, in today still, I know he can do more that I still push him to. A couple around, believe it was like 5 years ago, he started going to overnight camp. And the overnight camp started with 3 days. Everybody thought I was crazy. How can you send them to the lake? What? That's dangerous. What's going to happen? So, you know what? You need to close your eyes, breathe, pray, and be happy that they come back as a more mature individual. Now they're going for a week, and I'm so proud and of the organization that promotes this and has been doing the work to make it happen, because it really, really, really has made a difference in his life. Again, he's independent. If we go to the beach, he will swim. We call him, he come back. There's no running away anymore. He understands limits. We are coming, we're leaving, we're having fun, we're having fun together. So he has learned so many things from the whole process. And again, with a support system that not only includes family and friends, it includes the school, the camp, all the workers at camp were amazing, and provide him with a safe environment where to grow, because what it will come one day that that environment will stop. He will become a grown up, and he will need to learn how to deal with the outside world. So again, as a foundation, it's good to protect, but there has to be a line when you're overprotecting. You need to push them. You need to push them. They are capable of many things.
And Rebecca, one thing that I love is how good you were able to find that support system and the therapists and the people that will be able to help Nathan on his journey. What are some of the things that you can recommend to moms that are right now in that process, 1, 2, 3 years old, having an early diagnose? Because it can feel very lonely too, right?
Oh,
Especially if I get a diagnosis and nobody else in my community had a similar diagnosis, it can feel very lonely and like I'm the only one. So, how? What are some of the ways that these moms can find those support, that help, that expertise that will help them and their babies to thrive?
yeah. To be as an introduction to this, it's understandable, and it really happens a lot. And I don't think even that it's on purpose, but it happens. You start separating yourself from your friends that you usually, let's say you had a barbecue at their house. So because you know it could be a problem for that party, you start saying, "Oh, no, I cannot go." And slowly, slowly, it the your social life disappears. So it happens. I'm not gonna say it didn't happen to me. It happened. It's just a matter of you're in your thing, in your problem, and you don't want probably to share it with anyone. Being said so, it's very important to have a connection with people who are facing similar challenges. Definitely. Not as, they don't have to be your necessarily your friends, but it is very good to be able to share and see that, oh, I'm not so bad. Like I'm not saying that I'm happy that somebody else has more challenges, but sometimes it makes you feel like I would say like more tranquility when you see, okay, it's not only me. There's more people like me. So I what I did, I um, became part of a support group of my community here in Toronto, and I've been going there for like I don't know how many years, probably 8 or something. I still go, and I don't. It's basically a group where we discuss and find resources, and people share their whatever they have faced, and like a learning thing. But to be honest, at this point in my life, I go there more to give than to get, and that giving makes me feel good. And my, the expertise that I have gotten through this 13 years provide me a way of canalizing what probably could be stress, anger, the frustration from the grieving process. It's still there. I mean, don't take me wrong. You still sometimes say, "Oh, why?" But then you react, and you say, "Okay, let's go and help a younger couple that's facing this craziness." And you say, "You know what? Don't worry. I went through that. let's I can give you some tools, or I can recommend you this or that, or if I was you, I will do this work with me. Again, every child is completely different. But what you cannot do is be frustrated because I cannot, let's say, potty training is a mess for any kid or any parent. And for autism, is even worse. My son was in diapers and he was 7. He's 13 today and he's a big guy. Like if I overprotected at 7 with a diaper, and I will still be in diapers. So it has to be a moment where you make a decision and it happen. It again, I'm not saying it's easy. Totally, it's completely. Having kids is complicated altogether. Imagine a kid with a special need. So my recommendation is don't isolate yourself, even though it happens by its own. It's nothing something you plan. It happens. The first time you go to a house and they break a vase, you will not come back because you feel uncomfortable, and I understand that. But also, again, going back to the teaching of the community, I know it's not right to break nobody's vase, of course not. But people need to understand that they're people, that they need to be included, that they can be taught not breaking the vase, that they did it as any other little kid could have done it. So when something like that happens, don't blame it just on autism when they're little. They're kids. So again, we need to teach people around you. Sometimes I've gotten the look, what they call the look, like, so why is he like that? Or can he say sorry? Like he when he was a bit younger, he used to like to bump into people. Like he was walking and like he needed that contact with somebody. So some people laugh, some people understand, some people will complain. So that's also hard. So I you need to learn to be your kid's advocate, and make the world respect them. I understand it could be complicated, uncomfortable for some people, yes. But again, it's a reality that every day there's some more people in the spectrum, or diagnosed people in the spectrum. So how can you not go to the supermarket with them? Why can you not go to a store, to a party, to an event, to the movie theaters? Because the people around you don't like it. I Out of fairness, we should get like a common ground to them not to be upset and us to be able to use the same things they're using. The same people. Let's say if you go to the pool, I understand people might not like the splashing. Okay, but then there's ways, like I believe there's still a lot of ignorance around recognizing somebody, and I wrote a paper recently, by the way, about what is called the invisible disabilities, with that face probably more challenges or different challenges than the more visible ones. People tend to be very empathetic with the physical disabilities, but they seem not to understand the invisible ones. They might think, oh, this is a spoiled kid, or why is he jumping? What's his problem? Like, because they don't understand that this disability is different than being in a wheelchair or maybe being blind, which are very important to be respected. But people with invisible disabilities face a different level of challenges. So
I
it's important.
I love that because it's a message for all of us moms, right? And that is how easy we can jump into judgment of a behavior. And I love that is how different will be if when we are in front of that behavior, we actually allow ourselves to be curious and say, maybe this kid had different needs. And that is why he's bumping or he is running away instead of just jumping into, oh, how inconvenient I'm being. So one of the things that I would love for you to share with us is what the community can do. So how we as a community, because I agree with you, it's matter of creating ways to be inclusive and to create a world where we can all thrive and live together. So the community, how the community can get involved, how the community can learn, how the community can support these parents, how if I am in the grocery store and another mom, I don't know what it is struggling with her kid, how we can support and help. Because a lot of things, what I feel like is that people get uncomfortable, so they just ignore and they just walk away. And sometimes that is even harder for the mom because she's in the middle of something that is difficult to handle, and she's feeling embarrassed maybe sometimes, and also overwhelmed. So how the people around, how the community can start getting more involved and create more acceptance and help on some specific cases.
Well, I believe the world has been changing. We still have a lot to do, but the world has been changing. When I say this, is for example, movie theaters have established movie screening, especially for people with special needs, so they don't, they lower the volume, they put it darker, many things to help people cope. Some stores have also created a line, or let's say Disney, you can go and request a special pass so they don't have to stand in line, which is very good, by the way. You don't have to stand in line, so the whole family will go, because of special need kid it's harder for them to stand in line. So the world is changing for good, but there's still a lot of ignorance, and I think the first step should be to understand and read about it, learn about it, so you're capable of identifying. So it's when it's a tantrum of a little kid that just has a tantrum because he's like spoiled by the grandmother. That's one thing, and one thing is when they have a tantrum because they have an invisible disability. So learn to identify, learn, uh, teach yourself, like as a community, how to be empathetic, because I believe more than help, because probably at that moment, that let's say if it's a tantrum, that kid won't be able, you won't be able to help much physically talking. But let's say if somebody, I don't know, they cannot hold their bags and the stroller, or in the kid that's running away at the same time. It's crazy, like maybe let them go to the cashier before, or like, I don't know, like there's so many ways to help without actually intervening in the situation, that we will really appreciate. That's one thing. And learn about it, learn to identify, learn to to put yourself in the situation. Let's say you're in a movie theater. If you're seeing that the kid is doing noises in a particular way, learn to identify, and don't start like shh, shh, shh. Like, what can we do? He won't shut up. You want me to leave? Like, I have we have the same right to be in a movie theater, in a show, and than anybody else. But we as parents, we try to control the most that we can, but there's stuff that we can't. And to be honest, it's not fair to mute them, like to take them out because it's bothering one person. Like, I think the community needs to learn, and the businesses are doing their best to help. Again, movie theaters, shows, uh, big places as Disney are learning to give us also either a special day or a special rate or a accommodation of any type. For example, there's a park here, which my son is a member of the list, because they have a list. Like, if you have a child with autism and you go to a large park, it's very good for you to register them, because if they get lost, the park will help you find them. So I believe it has to be a matter of understanding, a matter of humanity, and don't be as uptight when you have people around. And this applies to kids in general, because some people complain of kids. Period. And kids are kids to start with, and then a kid with special needs is even worse. So, um, um, people need to learn to be more human, more sympathetic, more empathic, more proactive. Like say, okay, I don't learn about that because it doesn't bother me. I don't have anybody around me, and it shouldn't be that way. You should know, you should understand what's happening around you, and how can you, with a simple act of kindness, impact the life of somebody. So, and also the opposite, like with the act of kindness you can impact that day of that person, that probably can impact his whole understanding of something. And you, in the reverse, you, if not doing an act of kindness, being rude or mean or judgmental or whatever the case is, can impact dramatically in the outcome of that day and also the future. So we need to support each other in general. As you support an older person, like to cross the street, the same way you should be supporting these people with
And
disabilities.
you make me think about this, and it's all about kindness, right? Because a mom that is working with her child with special needs is already doing the best that she can, is aware that things are a little more challenging. I was actually remembering one of my shows in Spanish. I was interviewing a mom of a kid in the spectrum, divergent, and she was saying that even some of the simple things that we give for granted, like invitations to a birthday party, are a big deal for a mom of a baby with a spectrum, because they tend to not be involved. So she was, I remember crying with her because she was like, things like celebrating that somebody invite him to his birthday party is a big deal for me. So having that kindness
Mhm.
of knowing how much more these moms are dealing with emotionally and mentally, because they are worried like all of us for their babies to be great, and also worrying about the reaction, the unexpected ways.
Social acceptance, yeah, the social acceptance. Nathan had something since little kid. When we were invited to parties, or we were invited to, even when we went to those playground places and they had people's parties, in the minute you blink, don't ask me how, his finger always landed in a cake. So, if you had this, like, this amazing beautiful cake for, I don't know, like a baby shower or a uh, whatever it is, like very expensive decorated can, and then comes Nathan, bloops, or he eats the. I understand it's upsetting. It's your party, but happens, happens. So basically, what I look from people is a bit of understanding and understanding. With that, for me, that's enough. It just as you said, saying a nice word. So take your time, don't worry. I will go to a different line, you go ahead. Like, it's so simple. To don't overcomplicate my overcomplicated life already, that that will be enough for me. Oh, you don't have a bag? Oh, so here's one. Or, like, there's so many things, there's so many little
I
things.
love that message, and that it will work not only for moms of babies on the spectrum, but for all moms. Is don't complicate my over complicated life already. And then I
Mhm.
love that it's a very simple message. Is it requires a little random act of kindness, a smile,
Yeah, that's it.
take your time, sometimes even interaction of smiling, and like you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
saying.
yeah. That's it. That's it. What you need, or kind of noggin saying, "Oh, I get it. Don't worry. It's enough. It's enough." That won't be. But the reality is, you face people sometimes that honestly, you don't know what they're thinking. Like they're complain for the little things, for something that it's not so important, and they make like a big fuss of it.
But
But
that is a point that we all can help too, because that is the point of us being willing to step up and speak up. So if, for example, your example of the movie theater, like why we are leaving that mom alone, feeling that discomfort of a grumpy person that says shh, shh, when any other person around them can say like stop, then shh, enjoy the
you're
movie.
doing more noise with your exactly.
So it's part of that, is it's not only our kindness, but when we see somebody for whatever reason being unkind to a mom with a child that we already know, because Rebecca shared with us as an invisible disability, none of us will know, and it's not our business, but we will not know
Necessarily.
if they are in the spectrum or not. Then feel comfortable to step up and have that mama back, and make sure that the mama feels that she's not alone. It's like, hey, chill out, calm
You
down,
know,
back off.
you might think it's crazy what I'm going to say, but that aspect of autism gets more complicated, even though you're more seasoned. It gets more complicated when they're physically grown up and physically perfect. Because when they're little, they're kids. Kids do kid stuff. You cannot differentiate between spectrum or being just a 3, 4, 5 year old. It's the same thing, basically. Now that I have a 13-year-old that is a big guy that has to go to a public washroom on his own, period. And I don't know what's happening in there. And I have to just pray that he comes clean back and nothing happens. Because he's a big guy, physically a big guy. So it's harder because then he goes to the public washroom, he sits at the table and eats dinner, but then he might decide to jump out of the restaurant, like jump, like a heavy feet jumping. So people might say, okay, the, why? So they don't understand because again, you see a child that comes out of the car dressed normally, uh, comes talking with mom, laughing, goes to the restaurant, goes to the washroom on his own, and all of a sudden he decides to make noises. So it doesn't match. So makes it more invisible and more complicated because then you have to explain because people ask. So why is he? Let's say if you have like a, that happens a lot with the booth that you're sharing. I try to sit at a booth where nobody is in the next one, but sometimes it happens. Maybe he might decide he's perfectly eating, everything is perfect, and all of a sudden he will start to push the thing. Stop it. He will keep pushing. Stop it. But the person on the other side is just being pushed. So he will get angry. And then is this teenager pushing me. Like he doesn't see a child with autism. He sees a teenager pushing me. What's your problem? And that's where you need to try to cool people down and try to get them to understand. Say sorry, everything. But that's the reality.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. This was fascinating. Thank you for sharing your experience with Nathan and your family, and for giving this message of kindness, compassion, and for all the work that you're doing on getting other moms and other families the support that they need to understand that it's a grief process, that is okay at the beginning, that they are never alone, that they, with the right support system, they can find a way to thrive their life like Rebecca, Nathan, and their family are doing. So thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure and an honor having you here. For everybody else, please remember to follow me at Instagram, Joe Unicorn Coach, if you want a specific topic or if you want to ask any specific question. And also remember, this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it.
Bye.
Bye.